Welcome in, everyone. My name's John. I'm a staff software engineer with over 10 years of experience. I'm the lead maintainer of Ladderly.io, which is the website in front of us, an open source educational platform that will help you learn to code and land your first or next programming role. A lot of places out there that'll help you learn to code, a lot less places that will give you evidence-based practices to land a programming role. The job search is its own skill set. And that's the topic for today. Today we are discussing 10x developer communication and networking with LinkedIn. We're going to do a 3-part case study. I may change the YouTube video title. This is going to be the title for the sake of the presentation. I A/B test the titles. A/B testing is a great practice that you can adopt in your own job search. You can A/B test your LinkedIn direct messages that you send for cold outreach would be one example. So that's the title I'll be going with. Don't be too surprised if the YouTube video title changes, but that's the title of this presentation. It shouldn't be a very long one. We're looking at 10 minutes or so. And this was kicked off by just posting on LinkedIn. So I want to show you this LinkedIn post that I made and some of the reactions to it. And we will be able to demonstrate some behaviors that will allow you to drive job opportunities and networking on LinkedIn. That's the purpose. I'll also refer you to this content creation for career acceleration course. My suggestion is that you should adopt content creation as part of your job search. You should be spending at least a couple hours every week, whether or not you're actively looking, to build out your network so that when job search time comes, you can have a large, warm network of leads, people willing to refer you, people willing to send you opportunities. As a recent example, in 2024, I went through the job search myself. This was a historically difficult market, and yet I was able to land a job offer in a month, and multiple offers, including one that I accepted after 2 months. Okay, and 50% of my first round interviews were as the result of inbound opportunities. And so let's look at this post, and then we'll unpack what behaviors are going on and how we can map these onto 10x behaviors to go from 400 followers to 40,000 followers. This is going to be a 100x difference, 10x in 2 steps, 10x in 2 stages, okay? So I posted, I said, honestly, I don't know why you're using a database other than Postgres. And for hobby projects, I'm not sure why you'd use a database besides Supabase or Vercel database as a service. This is all lowercase. This is a pretty low effort post. You can see there's a little bit of expertise in here, but I didn't spend a lot of time on this. This is just something that I posted one day. And notice that there were only like 8 reactions in terms of like thumbs up and stuff, but there were 36 comments. So there was discussion going on. The things that you post when you're trying to drive conversations will be different, qualitatively different than the things that you post when you're trying to drive engagement or just reactions. For example, this is not a meme. This is not a meme. It's a little bit sassy. I don't know that I'd recommend that for you. I mean, this is a sort of like mediocre performing post, but I want to get into the conversations. I think that's where we'll see some really cool behaviors that resulted in me connecting with some people. So one response we get is a response from Ryan Talbert, really, really smart guy, recommend you connect with him. And he just says amplify greater than, or in other words, amplify is like a great option, maybe a better option, something he prefers, something he recommends. And you can see that this is sort of a tit for tat. It's like on the same wavelength, on the same energy. I did a lower effort post, he did a fairly low effort response, but both of them demonstrate some level of expertise. And that was enough for me to go, oh, hey, I wonder what he's thinking. So how did I respond? I responded with a question. With React, ? I just migrated a small company app away from Amplify. This is really a true thing that I did. So I bring in an anecdote. So I'm trying to build like a serious conversation here because I'm trying to actually unpack what he means. So really the spirit of this response is, oh, interesting, like tell me more. That's the spirit of this response. And how does he respond back to me? He responds back, interesting. So you can see it started as sort of low effort and then it grew into like mutual curiosity, didn't it? You see how we're driving like a relationship. And by the way, he and I are connected. And eventually, he revealed to me something that I didn't expect. He says in this particular case, it seems to work great with React and Ionic. And I said, thanks, I haven't used Ionic much. So he's able to reveal, and we're speaking briefly here, so there's like background knowledge we both have, but he's speaking briefly and unveiling an edge case that I wasn't aware of. And now he's given me an area that I can develop my skills if I want to. But neither of us, here's what we didn't do. I didn't say, you should be using Postgres. You have to use Postgres. The only right way to do this is Postgres. I said, I'm not sure. I'm sort of inviting, I'm sort of prodding, I'm sort of inviting conversation. Like, why would you not? So using questions, curiosity, open dialogue, and that leads to a deeper conversation, and that leads to identifying like a concrete technical case where we can develop skills, and then of course wrapping up with a thank you. Really important, underrated magic phrase, thank you, right? Okay, there's another interesting conversation. There was a few of them, but there's one other one that I really want to shout out that I really liked. David Marshall. David Marshall, and it says we're a second degree connection just because I haven't refreshed the page, but we connected after this. And I think this is a great model for a back and forth conversation as well. He says, I like Supabase for some things, but as soon as you get authentication involved, it's a no-go for me. So he's highlighting a pain point, and he says, I'd stick with Mongo and NextAuth. Okay? So again, going from kind of a low effort, inviting conversation, frankly, and then getting a response. And he does the cool thing of highlighting also a concrete technical case that allows the opportunity for us to have, if we want, a more in-depth technical conversation. And I didn't really go deep here. I just said that NextAuth works fine on Supabase. I could have said more, but I just kept it concise. Now, here's where he made a really good response. And it's, again, using a question. He says, do you have any documentation? I'm happy to be persuaded. Openness to conversation. Okay? And so I pointed him in the direction of the Create T3 app. I'll just briefly mention this to you. I won't really dive into this, but Create T3 app is the higher order framework. It's a Next.js wrapper that I recommend people use, and it includes NextAuth. Very well documented framework. Go check it out. Tens of thousands of stars on GitHub. And so I gave him a more complete answer based on this more substantive response that you can see how it grows. It grows from something sort of trivial into like a more detailed conversation. So I say check out Create T3 app. I say you can also use ChatGPT. The auth data model in SQL is pretty well known to these language models. I say you can also use the Latterly auth model because I'm using Prisma. I point him to the file. Finally, third technique. This is a great technique for you as well. I said you can do both. You can combine the reference code here, which is a pretty large file that includes auth and other irrelevant data. You can copy this into ChatGPT, feed it to an LLM, and ask the LLM to just extract the models necessary to support authentication. I'll do this as a quick demo, by the way. This is like a 1-minute task. This is not a hard task. So just copy all of the context in here. We'll go to ChatGPT. I'll say act as an expert web developer and extract only the relevant data models required to build an authentication. Let's say to implement authentication with Prisma. Extract only the relevant data models from the below reference Prisma schema file. So it pulls out the user, the account, the role, token, authentication token, and we're done. And then there's a type on the token as well. There's a different type of token if you're resetting your password. And that's it. So it pulls out these maybe 5 models out of the kind of the haystack of this, I don't know, 20 models or so. All right, so that would be the task that I'm referring to here. that was sort of the end of the conversation, but what I wanted to highlight here is how you can grow from just a pretty low effort post into something that builds. Now we're contributing value to each other, aren't we? He's telling me as an educator, hey, here are some places that I can explain better. And then I'm telling him, like, here's some tangible value, like you can go use this technically. And we ended up connecting. Now, the question is, which LinkedIn members have what size, and is there anything we can learn? The answer is I have about 4,000 like connections, so about 4,200, but we'll round it to 4,000. Ryan has, we'll round this up to 40,000, okay? And then our friend David has a little over 400. And so here's the chart that I want to bring you to: 400, 4,000, 40,000. And this is not really a deep dive, but it's just some quick observations on some of the things in common and some of the differences. So how do we grow? The biggest thing that resulted in the smaller guy getting a connection with the bigger guy, okay? So this would be David connecting with me. What drove me to accept his connection request? So I'm an influencer. I have thousands of followers on LinkedIn, tens of thousands across channel, but I really valued our conversation, and so I added him as a connection. The reason I did that was authentic engagement. That's all it took from him. He just had to authentically engage with my post. And then he did reach out and try to connect, and I accepted it, okay? Oh, also worth mentioning, when he reached out to connect, he added a note. You know, LinkedIn gives you the option to add a note to your connection request. Highly encourage you to do that. That is something that David did. And it was just like, hey, I appreciated our conversation, would love to connect, something like that. And yeah, absolutely, I'm going to connect with him. Now, what about to get to the 4,000? These three up here, I'm going to say are in common across all levels. Authentic engagement, curiosity, so using questions, mutual engagement, and kind or polite, okay? Notice that dumping tons of like hours of like effort into a post is not on the agenda here. What we do instead is consistent, low to medium effort, but consistent. So I post like this often, like 5 times a week. And there's plenty of data. LinkedIn themselves furnishes data in this regard. Consistent posting is the way to get volume. Volume, not just in terms of your posts, but volume in terms of your network. Just consistently post. So even with relatively low effort posts, occasionally, just by chance, just by probability, you get this engagement sometimes. And there are certain things that you can do, like openness to communication, signaling, like, I don't know why, instead of saying you should do this, instead of commanding, like asking or wondering. And then no one here is being a jerk. Now, I've definitely seen, and I'm sure you've seen, rage bait go viral. It can. I don't recommend it. That's in none of these case studies. Yes, if you scour the internet, you will find it, but I typically don't recommend that. Okay, and then also Ryan, the larger guy, also mutually engaging. So he made the amplify comment. I said, hey, like, what are you talking about? And he answered back and forth, and we're growing the relationship. Now, let's creep on him a little bit, because he's even bigger than I am. Is there anything that we can learn from him? Again, not a deep dive, but if we visit his profile, I teach career switchers JavaScript, so sort of establishing a level of expertise and credibility. There's a nice picture, there's a nice background. I think that's always worth noting. That's a good element of a high quality LinkedIn profile, isn't it? But what I really noticed when I start scrolling down, I notice the images pop. So here's an image, and then his most recent post has an image. Not super high effort post here either, right? Maybe a little bit of a joke, but it's not like you don't need a class in humor for that. But what I see, 2-day, 2-day, 3-day. So he's posting multiple times inside of a 2-day window, okay? So he has consistency. A little bit of humor, if you look through these, especially the one that did best here with 230 reactions. I increased my app's initial load from 3 seconds to 500 milliseconds, and it was easy. I simply changed the set timeout that I had set from 3,000 to 500. So this is a joke, okay? So jokes are a great way to get a bunch of reactions, and using images. So these are some of the things that he has done that have allowed him to get an outsized reaction on his posts as well. So what am I saying here? I'm saying humor and expertise. Notice that expertise is shared even at the 4,000 mark. I'm going to say you probably need some level of expertise to get into the thousands, and then it will be table stakes to go to the tens of thousands. But beyond what I posted, his were funnier, and he has strategic platform usage. Specifically, in the case of LinkedIn, that is leveraging the images. So image posts, statistically, lots of data on this, go look it up. Image posts do much better. And so you can see some of the behaviors. 10x developer communication, even if you're starting out, this is the big message I want to drive home to you. Even if you're starting out, just by authentically engaging, using a polite or kind tone, using curiosity, you'll be able to connect with larger people. I'm connected with people that have tens or hundreds of thousands of followers, and a lot of this is just they posted something, I engaged with it, I asked a question, I thanked them, and that's the start of a LinkedIn relationship. It doesn't take much. And then if you do want to grow to where I'm at, you're going to need consistency. And then if you want to grow to where Ryan's at, again, not a deep dive, but some of the quick elements are expertise, humor, and strategic usage of elements particular to the platform. So what works on LinkedIn will not work on Twitter as well, and it will not work on TikTok as well. So the guidelines for a short form video on TikTok are going to be different than YouTube and so on. And I'll basically end the stream there, but I will tell you that if you want to learn more about some of those platform specific guidelines, I'll point you back to the content creation. I think I mentioned this at the start of the video. Content creation for career growth. Content. Yeah, content creation for career acceleration. So this is and so here I'll talk about more about like the platform specific things in that video. I also think if you're watching the current video on YouTube, it will be in the YouTube video description. By the way, if you're watching this on another platform such as Twitch or TikTok and so on, all of my live streams, including the current one, are persisted onto YouTube. So you can check out the YouTube video and grow from there. So this was a quick deep dive into behaviors that will scale you. It's the same behaviors. They will scale you from hundreds to tens of thousands of followers, and then maybe some differentiators at each level, but really that core is what I wanted to really highlight in this video. Thanks for being here. I hope this serves you well. And if you see this video,